So, it seems you've been having trouble in honor mode. Honestly, I can't blame you. There are only a small amount of players that have finished this brutal mode. With the addition of the Xbox platform to the playable consoles where we can play the game, more and more people will now experience how painful this mode can be. Speaking of Xbox consoles, Baldur's Gate 3 is now the top selling title for Xbox this year. Despite the late launch after the Game Awards, developer Baldur Studios took to Twitter to let everyone know about this huge accomplishment and to thank the Xbox fanbase. Now going back to honor mode, I've scoured the internet to know where most of the players are having the biggest challenge. Most of the issues in honor mode for players, aside from having unlucky or just pure RNG, is that majority of players couldn't get past Act 1 without ignoring certain quests, missing out on certain fights on purpose, or doing some speed run exploits. So for today, I'll be presenting 5 early game builds to easily get you through Act 1. We're just gonna set some ground rules before we start. Number 1 is the maximum level for this is only level 5, as most of the classes have its first power spike in this level, and it is really early in the game. It can also be really flexible if you want to customize it in the future. Number 2 is it does not rely on items or gear. The build should be neutral and can be really powerful even without full set of gear. And finally, number 3, everything goes. The build can be any sort of composition, not just your typical 4-man setup. For as long as it's effective and it works, the sky is the limit to the amount of unique compositions you fancy. So that being said, let's get to it. Starting with a really effective team comp, which is the Sword and Bard. It comprises of 2 fighters, particularly the Battlemaster, and 2 bards that are from the College of Lore. This team is ridiculously effective as it has amazing CC capabilities of the Battlemasters with its maneuvers. It also has the charismatic powers of the Bard, while focusing on CC and control enchantment spells like Hold Person, Sleep, Hypnotic Pattern. This team can easily mow down enemies with its physical attacks. You can also hold certain enemies and pepper them with your bow attacks or any sort of damage source you can get, while your 2 fighters dispatch other enemies one by one with its amazingly high mobility and damage. I highly advise taking Disarming, Trip, and Menacing Attack for guaranteed effectiveness, as Menacing Attack and Trip Attack is really good against bosses, especially in the early game. As for the bards, it will focus on controlling enemies as much as possible. It also gives you a total of 4 short rests with the help of the bard's skills. This will be beneficial for the fighter as every short rest will replenish its resources. This team comp is also really effective outside of combat due to the bard's ability to be the most flexible class in the game. If you need the stealth, sleight of hand, persuasion, deception, intimidation, the bard got you covered. Using this really powerful team comp, you can easily destroy bosses and mini-bosses without them even having a chance to fight back. Want to have a literal unkillable god that destroys its enemies just by simply existing in the battlefield, running around and casting spells without a care in the world, resisting and reflecting damage to enemies like an absolute monster? What's better than having one unkillable god? It's 4. I present to you a squad of unkillable tanks that reflect damage with the use of Armor of Agathes together with its Adjuration Wizard class. This build is actually from my previous video showcasing the Battle Mage. This team comp is the true definition of the wizard is now the tank. And now you're utilizing 4 of them to play around. Enemies will tremble in fear while simultaneously dying from frost damage. You just need to slap on any sort of armor or gear as long as it gives AC, including a melee weapon, and you are golden. The strategy for this team is very straightforward. Get close to your enemies as much as possible and let them attack you. Attack them with melee weapons or with your spells. It is dependable on your preference. It may be from opportunity attacks or reaction attacks from enemies. For as long as they react to your movement, you are good. It doesn't matter either way. the battle squad will bring the pain nonetheless. What's really cool is that you're still a full-on magic caster, so you still have access using spells to decimate your enemies. As you level up, you gain access to more abjuration spells, you fuel your armor, and will increase your shield's effectivity. And not to mention the amount of damage reflect that you can dish out whenever you increase your spell levels. This is a really fun team comp if you want just to run around and blast your enemies with frost damage. The build really shines around level 5 to level 6 for the reason of unlocking a really powerful abjuration spell in the future. Now, while we are still in the concept of having 4 tanks, this is the 4-man AoE damage tank squad, which is the Light Wardens. These clerics will bring divine punishment to any foolish creature that is unfortunately in its way. If you love seeing radiant damage explosions, well, you will love seeing 4 radiant damage explosions simultaneously in a single target. Honestly, the amount of AoE damage with Radiance of the Dawn from this squad is just insane. You can just stay close to your enemies and watch the fireworks. Just slap on some ordinary gear and a weapon and it's all set. The build setup is really simple. You can just cast Spirit Guardian and stick to enemies as close as possible for a more explosive approach.
Holy look at all this damage!
Or for the earlier levels before level 5, you can be more of a spellcaster, destroying enemies with your Scorching Ray or any sort of magic that you have in your arsenal. Let all the 4 clerics stick to one enemies and watch it explode in holy power. What's really cool about this party comp is that all 4-man party members can heal or support each other, which makes it very hard for these clerics to die. For as long as you stick near to a target, they are as good as dead. Next is we are now exploiting the darkness and blind mechanics of the game with our really effective team, Warlock and Friends, which is our 3 Bard locks, being a mix of 3 levels of Bard, specifically the College of the Sword. We are utilizing Devil's Sight and the Bard Flourish attacks to maximize damage output. Utilizing the Bard and the Warlock's innate abilities, which is Charisma, that will benefit both classes, as well as using ranged weapons such as a dual crossbow, but you can actually use any sort of long-range weapon that you prefer for as long as you have it in the early game, together with our final party member, which is the pure Pact of the Chain Warlock. The Warlock will be the source of our darkness spell, as well as some useful meat shield in the form of a summon. What's really cool about this setup is the combination of the Bard locks can utilize the Warlock spells, casting Hex, Cloud of Daggers, Blindness, Tasha's Hideous Laughter, etc. to its advantage. On top of the numerous attacks it can do with Flourish, the setup is really simple. You just need to hide under darkness and open up with your Flourish attacks for added surprise, utilizing any other Warlock skills to fear, blind, or CC your opponents while you rain down range attacks and Eldritch Blast to your target. Bosses and mini-bosses will just be oblivious to your onslaught and will disappear from the battlefield like nothing. To add insult to injury, you also get 5 short rests in total using the Bard's abilities and will be very beneficial to getting back those Warlock skills to keep you going for as long as possible. I highly advise going for the setup if you want to have a really effective kill zone strategy in the early game. And finally, the party setup mostly everyone in the community knows about, and specifically for people who has knowledge in D&D. It is the most effective and cheesiest team comp in the game. You may already know this infamous team, which is the Darkness Squad, composing of 4 Warlocks with the combination of invocations such as Agonizing Blast, Repelling Blast, Devil's Sight, while utilizing Darkness. This setup is the most famous of all due to the fact that it's just too nasty to miss out. Having 4 Pact of the Chain Warlocks summoning meat shields to keep enemies occupied while you blast them to death is just nasty. Not to mention the amount of damage that you can dish out on a single target is just insane, while adding up the necrotic damage with Hex, blinding your enemies, Hold Person, Fear, Hypnotic Gaze, etc. It's all there. This team comp can start the battle hiding in the darkness to surprise enemies and blast your way to victory. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching the show. What do you guys think about the team comps that I mentioned? And I'm really curious to know, what are your stupidly meta combinations that will carry you throughout honor mode. Would love to know your answers, including your questions and clarifications, in a comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button if you guys enjoy the videos. Shout out for all the people who subscribe and keep supporting the channel. I really appreciate you guys for all the continued support, and for all the people who haven't subscribed yet, thank you so much guys for watching the videos, and I hope I earn your subscriptions in the future. But if I earn it today, please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. If you want to support me directly, please consider joining our D20 Rollers Club by hitting the join button, joining our Discord together with our guys, or Patreon. Finally, that's it for me. I hope to see you soon. The next Master Buck Show. Peace out. Bye guys.